So I'm sure you've heard all the arguments. When we remove, yes, I'm going to say when we remove King Charles as Jamaica's head of state, should we make our Jamaican head of state a ceremonial president? What about an executive president or none of the above? But what does it all mean? What's the difference? Does it matter? We don't usually think of the people, for instance, as being directly involved in choosing a head of state. But should you be able to elect a Jamaican head of state? Would you want to? Lots of issues here, folks, and lots of people telling us they don't understand the debate. We're not taught about. Well, we're breaking it down for you on this program. Welcome to All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller. We're going to be hearing from our guests this evening. In studio, we'll have with us Christophe Simpson, president of Jamaica Lands. We'll also have Glean economist Peter Espute, Carvel Stewart, Jamaican citizen he calls himself. You'll know him from the Master Builders Association and from football. And from Zoom, we're going to be having two members of the Constitutional Reform Committee, Ambassador Rocky Mead, he's a co-chair, and Dr. Lloyd Barnett, well-known constitutional expert. Before all of that, though, let's start out with this explanation.
We're moving on.
And so, after decades of debate about removing the British monarch as Jamaica's head of state, the latest effort has started. But effort to do what? What is all the debate about? Well, let's start with this man, King Charles, seen here making his first address as king in September 2022 after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II.
Wherever you may live in the United Kingdom, or in the realms and territories across the world, and whatever may be your background or beliefs, I shall endeavour to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love.
Well, he was also speaking to us, since King Charles, like his mother before him, is also Jamaica's head of state. He is Jamaica's king. The Constitution vests executive authority in Jamaica in Her Majesty, now His Majesty. Since King Charles doesn't live here, the Constitution establishes the office of the Governor-General, Her Majesty's representative in Jamaica, now His Majesty's representative. The Constitutional Reform Committee was set up to guide the process of reform. The co-chair, Legal and Constitutional Affairs Minister Marlene Malahoo Fort, made this announcement at a press conference on April 14.
The President of the Republic of Jamaica will be the formal head of state of the Republic of Jamaica, separate from the head of government of the Republic of Jamaica, President and Prime Minister. President as head of state, Prime Minister as head of government.
Not everyone agrees with the idea of a ceremonial president. Glean economist Peter Espute said this would be an annual waste of tens of millions of dollars and said this person would be just a rubber stamp for government policies. Dr. Canute Thompson said replacing a ceremonial British head of state with a ceremonial Jamaican head of state would be a nonsensical and meaningless exercise. So why the sharp differences of opinion? Well, a ceremonial head of state like King Charles is just that, ceremonial. They appear on important national occasions and they're supposed to be a symbol of unity for the country. Although their formal approval is needed for important processes like signing bills into law, generally speaking, they have very little real power or influence on the country's business. I should say that Jamaica's Governor-General has been described as more than purely ceremonial.
We have moved more away from people being appointed on the nomination of the Prime Minister after consultation with the leader of the opposition to more appointments being made by the Governor-General after consultation with the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition. It's worked very well, but these are more than simple ceremonial functions.
It is the Governor-General who, after consulting the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister, who decides who are members of the Integrity Commission, who are the commissioners. That's not ceremonial.
But what would be different if Jamaica were to install an executive head of state or an executive presidency? An executive head of state is also the head of government, for example, in the United States. There, the president is responsible for implementing and enforcing law and appointing the heads of the federal agencies, including the cabinet. The president has the power to sign legislation into law, to veto bills enacted by Congress, negotiate and sign treaties, issue executive orders, and much more. The U.S. president, like many other executive presidents, is directly elected by the people. Now, let me just hasten to say that for the sake of simplicity and just to get people acquainted with the phrases they've been hearing most often, ceremonial presidency, executive presidency, I'll stuck in that explanation with those two basic forms. There are all kinds of other different forms that a head of state can take. You have we hear about different models. And just by the way, when we're talking about models, a model is something that somebody came up with. So you can do your own model. You can craft your own model. You can figure out what we want our head of state to do and to be and what powers want our head of state to have. But let's get into it. And let's start off with the members of the Constitutional Reform Committee joining us from Montego Bay by Zoom, where they just concluded a public consultation. We have Ambassador Rocky Mead, who is a co-chair, and Attorney at Law, Dr. Lloyd Barnett. Gentlemen, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. So let me ask...
Thank you for having us.
It's great to have you both. Now, let me ask you first, Ambassador Mead, because I hear what the committee has said, but when I listen to a lot of what other Jamaicans are saying, people are calling for executive presidency, they want voting, they want all kinds of different things. They're saying this sounds like we're rolling over the GG's position into another position and calling it by a different name. So why not take the advantage, the opportunity to make a really significant change at this point?
I wouldn't say, thank you so much for having me, Dion, and I welcome this opportunity. We just had a lovely engagement here in Montego Bay. I wouldn't say that it is, we are saying why not, or we cannot do that. Actually, what we did was to review recommendations of previous commissions and to educate ourselves on that and then seek to share them with the public. And we got a lot of perspectives today. So what I would say is that we are not saying that an elected president is out of the question. What we are saying is that we have reviewed recommendations made so far, and one recommendation is to separate the head of state from the head of government, and for very good reasons that we can go into. And if you do that, then you can consider the mechanism by which you get the head of state and what role you would give the head of state versus the head of government. That's the broad point that's being made. So elected is not out of the question, but we can explain why the particular recommendation is being made, and we are welcoming input and would seek to pull those together. I can elaborate further later if you wish.
No, let's absolutely pick up on that. Dr. Barnett, so what are the two reasons, the good reasons to separate the two?
We have in our experience, good evening everyone, we have in our experience had the Governor General functioning in a way which has provided some stability to the governmental system, so that to change it, we need to be sure that what we are substituting for that system will work well or better than what we have now, because what we have now is a formal head of state who has some additional specific powers which were agreed on by us as Jamaicans to confer on him or her. And as I say, it has worked well. And completely different system, which would be an executive presidency, is a revolutionary change. And when you examine, and this is my view, when you examine the history of countries throughout the world over the last 50 or so years, that type of structure has not worked very well. It has led to dictatorships, and it has led to poor government, and on all indices, whether democratic indices or indices in relation to socio-economic factors, have indicated that the parliamentary cabinet system works better than the presidential system. You can, of course, have a parliamentary cabinet system in which you do not have a separate formal head of state. And that is something which can be considered, and we discuss whether or not, if we retain the parliamentary cabinet system, we still need to have a formal head of state.
Hold that thought for me, Dr. Barnett. Let's go to our first break. We're going to come back, and remember as well, you can WhatsApp us. It's 3810072. 3810072. Give us your first name, give us your general location, tweet us as well. TVJ All Angles will soon come.